They've been doing these type of approvals even in today's climate. Like, if you notice, banks are tightening up. They're giving out 20 low 5, 10K approvals, and they're asking for documentation. I've never seen a bank that gives out a 60K approval, instant approval for one credit card at 0%. I just haven't seen it. And I don't know how long that's going to last, but that can only be done with a...
Hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here. Listen, if you all are looking to get the right information about some major changes that's not only happening with Navy Federal, but about business credit cards, business credit card stacking, listen, this is the perfect video for you. I got my guy here, Toby, and I'm super excited that he actually carved out some time away from his business, his family, just to drop some gems on you guys today. So, Toby, are you with us today, sir?
Yes, I'm super excited to be back. It's been a while.
Yes, sir. It has been a while, man. I just realized that.
And let me, if you don't mind me saying this real quick. Number one, congratulations on your 100K subscribers.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
He set out a goal earlier this year. He was trying to get 100K before the end of the year. Done. Number two, which I don't think you get enough credit for.
Yeah.
You're the only YouTuber on YouTube that is actively seeking smaller channels like myself and everybody else you bring on just to bring us up. So I want to commend you for that. And I really appreciate that for you always bringing me on and helping these smaller channels grow.
Absolutely, man. Now, you know what? I'm always humble. When I hear stuff like that, I know at the end of the day, we're all in the grind, right? We're all getting good information out to people. And, a lot of times, like a video like this, I know this video is going to be great, but sometimes, because how social media works, people just look at the views and they say, oh, well, it's not good, and, sometimes it just doesn't, and sometimes it's not packaged a certain way or whatever, but again, my audience knows we most definitely we're going to deliver, but it's been plenty of people that, like you said, they were maybe a smaller channel or something like that. And now people like, man, like this person knows what they're talking about. So, but that's why we had to have you back, man. But thanks again. We greatly appreciate it. So listen, I know you've been busy. Congratulations to your new child as well, too, man. How's that been going?
It's been going. It's a new experience, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that. And hopefully I can set aside the tiredness and provide some value to your audience today.
That's right, man. That's right. All right. Well, here, we don't want to hold up any of your time. I know my audience got their notepads out. Let's get right into it. So one of the things you had talked about or that you mentioned recently was that Chase Bank is giving out a lot of money, but you need to have a business relationship manager. First off, let's break down what that is that Chase Bank is giving. But before we do that, can you explain what a business relationship manager is? If you're looking to get funding for your business with no minimum credit score required, this includes term loans, equipment financing, even fix and flip loans as well. To learn more, scan this QR code or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
Yeah, so a business relationship manager typically, before funding companies got into the game, is someone who works with private clients that have typically an average daily balance of 150,000, or they have like $1 million net worth. But because funding companies got in the game and started getting people, funding, now they kind of cut the middleman and they work with people like myself to get other clients and bring them business. So basically, these are bankers that work with high net worth individuals. They cater to those to get them specific business products.
Got you. Okay. Now, and then sidebar, is this type of relationship manager, does this exist with other banks as well?
Yes. Yeah. Usually there's business relationship managers at every bank, and there's different tiers. That's another thing a lot of people don't talk about. There's different tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and they deal with different people at different levels of net worth. So someone who could be doing 1 million plus or 2 million plus or 3 million plus in the business, there are different tiers that these bankers work with as far as the clients.
Got you. Okay. Good to know. So listen, audience, listen, I'm telling you guys, this is why we bring Toby to the channel, because not only does he keep up with all of this stuff, but he talks about this on his YouTube channel as well. So make sure you guys go ahead and check it out, especially for my business owners, because sometimes they have questions in the comments and I'm like, man, I got to wait till Toby comes back, for this. So, but we're going to add this into today's video as well. That's where a lot of my questions actually came from as well, too. So now, okay. Now that we know that, how is that working specifically with Chase Bank?
Well, I know I get a lot of backlash or pushback. I always preach Chase Bank, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Number one, there's no other bank right now that exist right now in the United States that can give you one credit card that has $150,000 limit. Okay. There's no bank out there. If you know of one, or anybody that watches the video, let me know in the comments, because there isn't one. Bank of America, they go up to 100K as a business credit card, but there's no bank right now that's giving out 150K on one card. And there's no other bank right now that's giving out 50, 60, 75K approvals on one card. There's no bank that's doing that, right?
Yeah.
Second thing, they offer 0% interest on business credit cards. Third thing, they offer amazing reward points, right? It's Amex and Chase. They're like tier 1, tier 2, A, and A+. So I like to have banks and credit cards that give me the best of both worlds, high limits and reward points. Another thing that you can do with Chase, you can move limits around, right? You can turn one credit card from 25 to 50K, 60K. You can move all these limits around. So the reason I preach Chase a lot, anybody I speak with, clients or YouTubers, anybody I interact with, you need to go to Chase. They have the highest limits. They have the best rewards. They have 0%, and you can move the limits around.
Wow. Right? And you know what? It's like you mentioned, you're not necessarily promoting Chase. And I don't look at it as a Chase promotion. I more so look at it like, okay, this is just where the information is. You know, so I mean, this is just where the perks are. Now, let me ask you this with Chase Bank, because again, a lot of people talk about in comparison to, you know, maybe Bank of America or maybe Truist or of course Navy Federal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But just, you know, let me ask you this. How long have they been doing this, or do you know when this started? Or
they've been doing it for a while, but it's just getting now that recently, even with this economic climate, they're giving out. But again, this has to be done with a business relationship manager. And I'll talk about why you can only get 50, 60, 70K approvals with a business relationship manager in a second. But they've been doing these type of approvals even in today's climate. Like, you know, if you notice, banks are tightening up. They're giving out 20, low 5, 10K approvals, and they're asking for documentation. Chase, I don't know how long this is they're gonna keep doing this, but Chase right now is giving out the bag. And I've never seen a bank that gives out a 60K approval, instant approval for one credit card at 0%. I just haven't seen it. And I don't know how long that's going to last, but that can only be done with a business relationship manager. And if you want, we can talk about why that's kind of the new trend, because basically now the algorithm is the middleman between you and the application, you getting approved. We're cutting that middleman out. We're going straight to the source. The source is a business relationship manager. And what they do is they take your information on the application and then they submit that directly to the underwriter, right? That's the difference. When you submit an application online, it's done through an algorithm, right? It's either approved or denied, right? So it's not like there's no hack. You apply at 2 a.m, you're going to get no, it's all done through an algorithm. But when you do it with a business relationship manager, they take your application, they give it to the underwriter. Here you go. Here's a client that we need to get into our system. They look like they're a viable client and they can bring us some business. And another benefit to that is if you get denied, they can reconsider the application for you. They can make a case. They can tell a story on your behalf on why we need to get this client approved, because they're incentivized to bring in volume. The business relationship manager is incentivized to bring business to Chase Bank, right? That's their job, to bring in new customers and new clients. So that's the benefit of going with Chase, and specifically to a business relationship manager.
Man, I feel like that's the cheat code, you know, because nobody talks about that. You know, honestly, I don't see enough people talking about a business relationship manager. I see people talking about, obviously, business credit cards, credit card stack and things of that sort. But the problem is that it's when you have a relationship with someone like that, someone that's designated to learn more about your business, or to someone that you can actually just ask questions to, you know, and then get some feedback and say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to do for my business. This is how much I think I need, you know, and then what are my options, instead of just, and don't get me wrong, there's some great information, you know, out here on social media, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, whatever, but there's also incorrect information, bad information, illegal stuff that's out here. And, you know, and people may get the wrong type of information, and because of that, they'll make the wrong decisions. But you said you was going to, you want to talk a little bit more about what that would mean. Like you said, about 70K or something like that with the relationship. Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah. So number one, you won't be able, no one's going to get a 60K instant approval with a Chase Business credit card without a business relationship manager. So how it works, some insider secrets, since I have some.
Oh, wow.
How it works is, let's say Calvin wanted to get a business credit card with Chase, right? I can't give this secret away, but I will say, basically, you fill out your application online. It's done all online through DocuSign,
Okay.
right? And then they're incentivized, without saying too much, they're incentivized, the right business relationship manager, they're incentivized to give you the highest limits, right? Because they're bringing business into that Chase Bank.
Yeah.
Second thing, the difference is you get to request your limit. You don't get to, that's the difference, right? When you submit an application, you don't say, oh, I want 50K or 70K or 60K.
Right.
You have to tell the business relationship manager what kind of limit are you looking for your business. So you would say, oh, I want a 60K credit card with Chase, right? So that's the difference when you do it with a business relationship manager. When you apply online, you don't have that option to choose what kind of limit you request. It's just you submit the application and they approve you for whatever they deem your that you can manage. But with a business relationship manager, you request your limit, which is a big advantage, because most business credit cards, typically, like a good bank, 20 to 25K, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes 35K, 40K. Best case scenario is like 45K. Anything 50K and above has to be done through a business relationship manager to get you that 50K plus approval. And another thing, you can, again, it's all about knowing data points, right? So with Chase, as I mentioned earlier, you have the ability to get 150K on one card. So what you can do, because their credit limit exposure for the business credit cards is 150,000. So knowing that, you can go, oh, let me get 50K on one card and then 50K on another card, right? Or you could do 75K on one card and 75K on the other card. Or you could just merge the limits and get 150K on that one card, all at 0% as well.
Wow. Yeah. Man. See, that's some good information to know, because especially like if someone applies and let's say, for example, they get denied, they can at least talk to that person and then find out what other options they have. I think sometimes people get stuck on one particular thing, like I got to have this credit card, or I have to have this line of credit, or I need to have this account with this particular bank or whatever. But again, once you find out, once you essentially create that relationship with the business relationship manager, they'll be able to just hold your hand and walk you through not only what you think you need, but of course what you need and what you can get approved for. And I'm sure, and I don't know, do you know if they provide information, like I mentioned, like if they get denied, they would give you other options as well too?
Yeah, well, they'll tell you why you're denied, right?
Gotcha.
Number one. And if they're a really good one, they'll try to advocate and speak to the underwriter to get that overturned. Right.
Yeah,
perfect example. I was working with a client who had a collection on TransUnion. He got initially denied.
Yeah.
Reconsidered the application with the business relationship manager. He got 25K. Now, they advised me, had he not had that, he would have got 50K. Now, what we're going to do is remove that collection. We're going to double back. We're going to come back and apply and either ask for 50 or 75K, so we can get him a larger limit on that other card. So, that they're like you said, their job is to guide you to the application, tell you what we offer, and try their best to get you approved. That's their job.
Man, that's huge. That's really good information, because a lot of people don't know that happens. Well, for one, I didn't know that happened at that level with, obviously it makes sense for businesses, but like, business credit cards and things of that sort, because when I worked at the car dealership for 6 years, people just assume they will put in an application. We send it to some banks say yes, some banks say no. And then we just show them the options. But in reality, we would call the banks and say, hey, can we get more of X? Can we get less of X? Can we get this? And where people, would essentially get denied, or they would get approved, but they needed to get approved for like $3,000-$4,000 more. Right. And then we would call it rehashing. And we would call the bank and say, hey, did you guys look at this? Or did the computer? Because a lot of times, to make things faster, they just have computers say yes or no and create the terms, but that's based on a threshold. But then you have someone, for example, where let's say, for example, they're a 600 credit score, but then like a credit card's maxed out. And in reality, they're really a higher score. They just got a maxed out card. So it's like a computer. But don't get me wrong. You obviously got computers, AI, stuff like that, but you still need a human to make a decision, because sometimes there's a story behind something, So But I think that's where, again, that's where that business relationship manager comes in, because that also happens too within mortgages. There's nothing better than being able to explain a situation to underwriting or have them take a look at something rather than just a computer approval. So now, okay. Now you also mentioned too that business relationship managers is the only way, or probably the best way, to get funding in like today's economic climate, or when there is a economic climate similar to that. Why do you believe that?
Yeah, well, think about it. Now, banks, this never was the case. Now banks are asking for documentation on a business credit card. That is unheard of. For a business credit card, that doesn't make sense. For a business line of credit, that makes more sense, because that's more risk to the lender, because a business line of credit is cash in the bank, right? You're approved for 50, you get 50 cash in the bank. A business credit card is just something you swipe. It's kind of like, made up money. So the reason you need to be getting these business relationship manager, because like you mentioned before, they can tell. It's what story you tell to the bank, what story you tell to the underwriter. When you submit an application, you're not able to tell your side of the story. Like if you're denied, like the client I mentioned before, he was able to tell his story. This is why I have this. I've done great in these other, credit card companies, these other creditors. He was able to tell his story on why he should get that decision overturned. So now it's not good to apply online. It's good to go in the branch, sit down with a business relation, not a business banker, a business relationship manager, right? Because they have more pull. They're above a business banker. That way you can tell your story. You can tell them about your business, on why you need to get that business product and why you should get approved. They're able to communicate better your story as to why you should get approved, as opposed to just submitting the application and let the algorithm decide for you. Right. And again, they're incentivized to get you approved, right? Hint, they're incentivized to get you approved. So it's in their best interest to get you approved. I mean, obviously you still need to qualify. You can't have like 50 late payments, but their job is to do their best to get you approved.
If you're looking to get funding for your business with no minimum credit score required, this includes term loans, equipment finance, and even fix and flip loans as well. To learn more, scan this QR code or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's key, because like you said, they're incentivized to do this. Well, essentially, so it's not like you said back in the day where it's like, hey, this person applies, here's this approval, 20,000, 15,000, whatever. And now it's like, hey, we not only are we looking for docs, but we're also here to put you in position to give you whatever you need, because at the end of the day, that's one of the ways that the banks makes money. So they need people to walk them through. I think that's a great tool. I think a lot of banks more banks should have that, even if it's not for just on the business side, because that's what, at the end of the day, people that get denied, even if it's for an auto loan or a mortgage loan or something like that, a lot of times people don't give good advice on what they need to do. Like, tell me what I need to do. What's the strategy? What's the game plan, in order for me to get approved? And that's where that business relationship manager is going to come in big time. So listen, I'm glad we got you on today, man, because a lot of people have been asking questions, similar to that as well, too. Now, you also mentioned, too, and people, listen, my audience, they love to know any changes that happen, especially with Navy Federal. But you said that Navy Federal is making some major changes, especially in their business section of things. So what changes are they making right now?
Well, let me just make this unpopular opinion, because I know I'm going to get hated on. Navy Federal is not a good bank for business. Number one, I'm going to explain why. When I got approved for their card, their threshold was only 35,000 without documentation. That's not good. I just talked about Chase, how you can get 50, 60, 70,000, right? On one card. Their threshold was 35,000 on all businesses. So that's not good. I have the card. I don't like it. Number two, their benefits, their reward points are terrible. They're terrible. Number three, they don't have 0% interest like Chase does, or even Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, or American Express, right? Number four, now, again, this was years ago. They're not now. Currently, they are asking for your tax returns. They're asking for P&L, and if they do approve you, they give you 5,000. What are you going to do with 5,000? You can't do anything with 5,000.
Yeah.
And then they have business lines of credit that you need to provide all this profit and loss statement, 2 years tax returns, business tax returns, personal tax returns. They're just not again, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments, but trust me, you got to think about this. I want a bank that gives me all the benefit, high limits, great rewards, 0% interest, right? Because that buys me time as a business owner to get my business up and running where I pay 0 interest. And on top of that, I get the rewards so I can travel for free. On top of that, I got the high limits. The only benefit, which most people don't even, might go over their heads, is that Navy Federal business credit card is what we call a ghost card. They don't report to personal or business credit. Right. A lot of business credit cards are starting to report to the business credit bureaus. But the only benefit for Navy Federal, other than that, there is no other benefit. They don't have 0%. Their reward system is trash. Their credit limits are not good. Credit limit increases are a hard pull. Chase is not a hard pull for a credit line increase. You know, it's just not good. Like and now they're asking for documentation. 2024, I have a group of over 1,000 members, and now they're telling me all these data points where hey, I applied for the Navy Fed biz credit card. They're asking for tax returns for a business credit card. Hey, I got approved, but they only give me $5K, right? This wasn't the case 4 years ago, but that's why I'm not a big fan personally of Navy Federal. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments.
No, you know what? I'm glad you talked about it though, Toby, because, or I would say we don't do, well, not an 850 club, but I think that what a lot of YouTubers do, especially YouTubers or people that's in social media, they'll keep talking about certain things as if things are the best. And just so we're clear, we're not saying it's not a great account to have. It's not a great credit union to be with, but you have personal and then you have business. And I truly believe that majority, obviously, of accounts, usually for any bank, is usually more personal than business. But let's be honest, Navy Federal, no one necessarily says, okay, I'm going to do all of my business with Navy Federal. And you're just simply saying, hey, there are banks that have better perks if they have business accounts, essentially, with these other banks as well, too. So we can't be like everybody else in a sense of, hey, they're the best, when let's compare it. And it may not be the best, especially for business needs. And just so we're clear, guys, 2 things I want you guys to understand. Toby is not your post-COVID entrepreneur. What I mean by that is that's where people say, you know what? Forget everything. I'm going to start a business. He owns a restaurant. He has other business ventures as well, too. He's also obviously a part of a group where other people are following this advice and they're getting approved. So he's not just saying, hey, this is my situation. This is just my P&L. And then this is my approval based on that. This is him saying, hey, listen, this is based on the people I've also showed how to do this as well, too. And they're getting approved. And which is great because everybody's profile is different. And you're able to say, okay, now we have a worst case scenario. We have a best case scenario. We have an average, So, man, that's some great information as well, too. But I don't think hey, people always have, how they feel about Navy Federal. But again, this is from a business standpoint, as well, too.
Just
and
like
you talked about that ghost card. Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just like you said, like there's personal and it is business. I'm talking specifically for business.
That's right.
It's just not good. I mean, like you said, pros and cons.
Yeah.
Pros, it's a ghost card. That's really it. The pros, I mean, the con is no 0%, no rewards, no high limits. Now they're asking for docs, very low limits across all businesses. So you can't reallocate the limits. I mean, it's just too many cons. So,
another thing too is it wasn't always like that. So that's another thing people got to understand. This is how we feel based on right now, because that's what's happening right now. But also people have to also understand, because things were so much talked about so much, a lot of people join. And anytime you get a lot of people in something, that's not a bad thing, but the filter is not the same. It's not the same type of clientele. Some people go to certain banks specifically to get a certain amount of money with no intentions on paying. And so because of that, let's be honest, Toby, that's what people are doing. And that's why they're asking for documentation.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's what happened. People ruined Navy Fed for exactly that. Now they did something, changing the interest rates on how they're charging the interest rates now, because I forget how many billions they charged off because people were delinquent on their accounts. They're not paying their bills because they go in there with that wrong mindset.
That's right.
I'm going to get the money and never pay it back. I'm going to get some money and never pay. You burn that bridge. And that's why I mentioned earlier, I don't know how long Chase is going to have that ability to get those high limits, because once I say this information, or once other YouTubers say this information, people go in there with the wrong mindset and to get 50, 70,000 and never paying back. That's the wrong mindset. And then it ruins it for everybody else. But people got to change their mindset and try to stop trying to run away with the plug.
That's right, man. Listen, this is exactly why we have Toby on at least. We got to have you on quarterly, man.
For sure, I'm ready.
For real, man. Just because, and again, because you bring an honest opinion, and it's not like, hey, this is just my thoughts. This is, hey, this is what's going on right now. And compared to all these banks, because this isn't just about Chase or Navy Federal. It's like, hey, this is what's working right now. This is what's the best option right now. And it just so happens to be X bank. Okay. I want everyone to understand that. So, but again, Toby talks about all this stuff on his YouTube channel. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out as well. Now, obviously, this has been a popular topic even right before COVID hit as well, too. And I'm saying that because in the last few years, it's been so many people kind of talking about, I won't say the same things, but more so just popular topics in general. But it's still good for people to know this type of information, and that is business credit card stacking. Now, people talk about credit card stacking and, a lot of different ways. I know people that's got 50 plus credit cards, things of that sort. But, why would a person consider business credit card stacking? And then, of course, what's the best way to start to do it?
Yeah. So why would they consider it is to get multiple products with very low inquiries and try to get an amount of let's say 30, 40, 50,000 in one particular round, what we call a round of funding. So I want to simplify it, right?
Yeah.
All business credit stacking is just a set of applications with a set of banks, and where they pull from, what bureau, and then you do it in a sequence where you limit the inquiries on your credit report, right? So oh, this bank, Chase, pulls from Experian, PNC pulls from Experian, so you can do three applications with 3 banks that pull from Experian, or 3 banks that pull from Equifax, or 3 banks that pull from TransUnion. You want to limit the inquiries. You try to get as many applications as you can, and you need to know the sequence. You need to know which banks are inquiry sensitive, which banks are new account sensitive, things like that. So it's just a set of applications in a short amount of time to get the highest approvals and the lowest inquiries. That's the easiest way I can explain it.
Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So now let's say, for example, obviously a person's doing this for business credit. Is there ever a limit that you would just have a recommendation that people not try to do? Like, I know you mentioned 3 applications within a set period of time. Is there a maximum that you think people should kind of keep an eye on so they don't do it, make a mistake on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a maximum.
Okay.
I would say first you need to know, like I just mentioned, which bank pulls from which bureau, right? Which bank is inquiry sensitive. So it doesn't matter if you have 5 inquiries, they'll still approve you because they're not inquiry sensitive. So you just need to know these, what we call data points. You need to know these data points from these banks before you apply. You can just apply to as many as you can. And if you get denied, you can still remove that inquiry, so it doesn't really affect you. But to answer your question, I wouldn't say there is a maximum because at the end of the day, the goal is to try to get as many applications submitted all at once or in this particular sequence to try to get the max amount of approvals in that short amount of time.
Got you. Man, we greatly appreciate you dropping the gems, today per usual, because again, people are looking for business funding, business credit approvals. Now they know more about the business relationship managers, things of that sort. And let me tell you something. If you guys like this interview, you most definitely going to like the previous ones that we've done as well too. Some of that information is still accurate to this day because banks, they change things all the time based on the economic climate, based on, obviously things that are going on in general. And, it has to make sense for them. And so, but when you have to understand something, when a lot of people do something and it's just not going the way that they want it to or the expected result, then they're going to change things, and as they should, because the clients, the consumers change, So trust me, banks want you to know this information because they want to make the money. That's
all about money.
It's all about money, man. So if Chase Bank did a video on this, nobody will watch it. So that's the thing, man, because it'll come off like a promotion or something, So, but either way, man, listen, thanks again for stopping by the channel. We greatly appreciate you dropping the gems as usual. Is there anything or any last comments that you want to leave before we get out of here today?
Just so we're clear, I don't hate Navy Federal. I just hate Navy Federal for business. That's all I got to say.
There you go. And that's right now, because that could obviously change, But here's the thing, guys. And we talked about this. I want you all to think about it like this. Don't get caught up in the name.
Right.
Get caught. Make sure that the terms make sense. The conditions makes it. Yeah, it's got to make sense. Like, and I'll give you guys a perfect example. Look at what we buy now from Amazon. Everybody watching this, look at what you buy from Amazon now. Back in the day, I'll go back 20, 30 years ago. Don't get me wrong, and brand name still matters. But back in the day, some of you guys were like, listen, I'm only buying a cassette player if it's a Sony Walkman. I'm only going to buy a TV if it's Samsung, right? We were loyal. We were loyal to these brands. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with brand loyalty. But now look at what Amazon has introduced you to. It says, hey, look at this product. It's in the price point that you want it. Look at the ratings. It has everything that you want, better terms, better conditions. And it's a brand you haven't heard of before, but everyone's happy. You're more than likely going to go from that. I mean, look, the last 20 things I bought from Amazon, probably 2 or 3 things are name brand, versus brands that are now just growing in general. My point is don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing, or don't get caught up in what it seems popular. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's going to be best for you and your business. I think that's the best way to say it. All right. But thanks again, Toby. We greatly appreciate you being here, man. Thanks again. Okay.
Appreciate you.